Hiya. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Lorna Prescott. I work at Dudley CBS, and I've been involved in some work over the last couple of years with Peter and another colleague, Donna, in Men's Nest. And I suppose the context of this talk, really, what I want to talk about fundamentally is collaboration. So just keep it as simple as that. So earlier on this year, Donna, one of our teammates, was talking to some of the people that have been attending Slimming World sessions in Men's Nest Community Centre, and discovered that Slimming World kind of has all of these amazing recipes that you can kind of make things from scratch, nice healthy meals, and people were sometimes a little bit reluctant to try things out because they're a bit maybe more complicated than they were used to, or kind of weren't sure about some of the recipes. So she asked whether any of them would like to consider coming together in the kitchen in the community centre, which isn't used most of the time, and actually have a go at some recipes together. They said, yeah, we'd definitely be up for that. So one morning early in February, we got together. Donna and I had created a nice little environment in the small hall at the community centre. When we do sessions with residents, we kind of lay out spaces, create a nice environment, and we've got some nice tools that we use to kind of design ideas together with people. So we had Sam, who has got an amazing set of skills. The woman can do anything, so if you ever want anything done in Men's Nest, go find Sam. Shireen and her mum Yvette, who are both doing Slimming World, a resident called Carl and another resident called Tara, and some little kids. So we had some toys out for the children to play with while we were doing the session. And one of our activities that we do actually involves Lego anyway, so kids can just get involved in everything we do. What they came up with as the kind of the challenges to actually coming together to cook together included: how were they going to decide what they were going to cook? How would they source all of the ingredients and get them to the right place at the right time? How would people be kept safe? There's a big training kitchen. People have got children. What were we going to do about that? The usual worry of, will everything be kept clean and washed up? And also, how would they promote this? Because they wanted this to be open to anyone that lived in or around the area and kind of wanted to come along. The solutions that they came up with through the process that we took them through, it's quite simple, was that they would agree each week in advance what they were going to cook the next week, and people would spend time a little bit maybe looking at recipes that they liked or looking on websites and bringing ideas. They all agreed there and then to put £2 in. There was literally money being put in the pot kind of as we had this session, and that people would take it in turns. Whoever was free would go with that kitty to find the ingredients for the agreed recipe and bring everything to the session. They came up with a nice kind of little simple set of rules for kind of keeping the kitchen clean and kind of working together and staying safe. And they decided what they would actually do is use 2 spaces. They'd also use what is often a meeting room, it's rarely used, and that parents and carers would take it in turns to be in the kitchen prepping and cooking, or being in another room with the kids. So all of the children were in one room, but not necessarily with their own parent at a given time. They've developed a rota for washing up, and they promoted the sessions by word of mouth. That was kind of their main thing that they wanted to use. And they also set up a Facebook group, and as soon as Men's Nest Community Centre mentioned it on their Facebook, conversation started. Loads of residents were joining in and asking questions and saying this is a great idea. So I just ask you to compare that to how those of us who work in services and organisations might have thought about getting people cooking together. If we were running a programme, we might have been thinking about things like how do we get funding to pay a tutor, and where will we find that person to teach? What spaces do we need to use, and how much will they cost to use? There are parents with children, we'll need to put on a creche, we'll need to get some money for that. People are using consumable things like food, and they'll need equipment. Where are we going to buy those and get the funding for those? That might be how a programme might start, I think, traditionally, or would have done in the past. And also, if we took it maybe from a different angle, some of us might have come in and thought, how do we set up a group that goes on and does cooking things? Well, we'd have been thinking about, well, they need a committee, because they'll need a constitution to be able to get a bank account, to get funding to do all these things. Maybe they're going to manage volunteers, and the volunteers will do the washing up. They'll need things in place. These are the ways that we normally do things. And I think we've got really good at those things. We've got good at programmes, delivering programmes. We've got good at setting up structures. And we need all those things. We need those things if we want to bring in financial resource from other places. We need them if we're working with volunteers and we're looking after them well. And we need them if we want people in communities to be accountable, kind of outside the activity, but even if we want people to kind of represent others. We need structures to know sort of what's the boundary of what we're dealing with. But some of the outcomes of kind of having structures and programmes like that is that they're often kind of linear in their thinking. So you have to kind of decide a lot of things right at the beginning before you've done any trying out and learning, especially if you're applying for funding, because they want to know everything that you're going to do before you've done it. Another thing that happens, particularly with the group stuff and structures, is that we create competition. The systems we're part of that we perpetuate create competition between people in communities in terms of between their structures. And my classic example of this actually is from Wren's Nest, but from about 15 years ago. I used to manage a small community grants fund in Dudley, and in one round of grant applications, the Tuesday bingo group at Wren's Nest applied for teacups and saucers and various other things, and also the Wednesday bingo club at Wren's Nest Community Centre applied for this, and it provoked interesting discussion between the resident members of our panel. And to this day, there are locked cupboards in Wren's Nest Community Centre with the Tuesday bingo group's crockery and the Wednesday bingo group's crockery, which only see the light of day 2 hours a week. So you can see we're somehow creating these things by the way that we do things, and actually the traditional ways we've been working lead us to, and lead residents to, overlooking what they already have around them and perhaps not making use of things. So through Open Hub in Wren's Nest, what we've been trying to do is actually support people, and instead of thinking about programmes and structures, to think about platforms which invite collaboration and connection. We've been trying to connect people that have got passion and motivation to do something together, so like people cooking together and trying out these recipes that are healthy. We've been focusing on using existing resources. Through kind of being around a lot, we've worked with the community centre committee, where they've radically changed the way they think about how the spaces in their centre can be used. So rather than coming straight in with that kitchen costs £12 an hour to hire or whatever, they're actually making spaces available for people to come in and start projects, because actually those projects deliver the outcomes that they're there to see in their community. Platforms, as opposed to programmes and kind of planned and structured stuff, are quite emergent, so you kind of change as you learn. Learning gets woven in at every point in a much more ready way than when you're kind of trying to meet someone's deadlines or funding restrictions or outcomes you've said you'll meet or something like that. And also everyone's welcome, so it's not just about recruiting volunteers. I think Peter will know, there's some statistic about how many of us volunteer. I think through the work we've been doing in Wren's Nest, where we've engaged in total about 250 local residents within the space of a year, some of those people wouldn't naturally kind of join a committee or volunteer to cook for someone else or do all those things. So it's about including people that would readily volunteer, but also reaching people that aren't going to sign up and say, yes, I'm a volunteer, that's my role description. People have brought all sorts of things to projects. We've had a growing project running for nearly a year now. People turn up with their own tools from their sheds. We didn't need to go out and buy tools to get this project started, because people said, yep, I know what I need to do the gardening, I'll bring that with me. Families coming together to do craft projects last summer holidays. We kind of planned for parents a list of what people might need, so that there could be activities for each of the 6 weeks. And people bought newspapers for papier-mâché, t-shirts for tie-dyeing, things out of the recycling bin to make music instruments out of. Do you see what I mean? So again, no need to start going looking for funding when people can actually bring things from home themselves. So really, going back to kind of something that Deborah Harkins was saying this morning, what we can do a bit differently if we also look at what we've already got is quite interesting. So we can kind of shift our mindset a bit, start with assets, as kind of is the term. There are simple ways that we can collaborate and co-design with residents and each other. We've actually nailed our kind of project co-design process down onto one A3 sheet of paper. That's how the growing project, the slimming cooking, all of these things. There's some conversation we have first, but then we've got kind of one sheet that brings it all together, all the questions you need to ask, and that nudges people to think about what's around them and what they can use. And we actually move from planning to action in a matter of days. Once you've found the people with a shared passion to connect, which is the hard bit, I'd say, you can literally be sitting planning, well, we were sitting planning a stay and play session with parents to it. The first session running 3 days later. The gardening project, planned it one day, it started the next. The slimming cooking, planned it one day, it started the next week. So really, some of the key things we've learned from Open Hub is that platforms and collaboration allow you to save budget, save funding, work in a truly kind of bottom-up way with people kind of coming up with the ideas and weaving in their learning and changing what they do as they go along. You can move to action really rapidly once you have got people that want to do something together. And I think that what that means is that we can do more. So as organisations in Dudley, by working in some of these ways, as well as the ways we've already got, which are really important, we can do more. So my challenge to you is to, I've got some cards that kind of think about taking an asset perspective and collaborating. It doesn't matter what the context is. I think in order to kind of get good at this, we've got to change some behaviours and just start thinking about working collaboratively. So I'm just wondering, the next time you plan a meeting agenda, can you do that with other people? Could you do it at the end of the meeting before? Or maybe at the beginning of your meeting, the agenda is blank and you ask people for what they'd like to see on it and then take some votes about what people want, how they want to prioritise that agenda. If you're thinking about a report you've got to get written, I've always got about 3. Actually, step back. How can you bring together some colleagues, sit down, ask some questions and use the conversation to create the content of the report rather than kind of driving through it yourself and then taking it to people for feedback. You're planning an event. How can you think about involving people who might be part of that event as audience or participants, actually more in the planning? Or as we've been doing, if you're working with a group of people in a community context, bless you, Julie, how could you be doing that? So that's my challenge if you want to take any of these. They've got funky little different things on the front as well, just to provoke thoughts. So that's me, and if you want to know more about what we've been doing in Open Hub, I have newspapers that we've been delivering around the area, so please do come after the other talks this morning and grab one of these from me. Thank you.